Millie, I got a question for you.
Yes.
The house that out on the farm, who all slept upstairs?
Well, we only had 2 bedrooms.
Suck it. I'm sorry?
Hard or soft?
Soft.
We only had 2 bedrooms. One was a boys' room and one was a girls' room. And by the time that was upstairs. Downstairs, mother and dad have their bedroom, and then when we were little, we slept. There were 2 beds in their bedroom, so the 2 youngest ones always slept downstairs until we graduated to the upstairs. I remember, and then by the time Carol and I got to sleep upstairs. The other, well, Mary and Francis were both gone from home, you know.
Right.
And then there was a couch in the living room that opened up. You could, if they came home for the weekend,
they're all gonna travel.
then they slept down there.
Okay, so when Mary and Francis, if they were to come home, they would sleep downstairs?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Did they leave their clothes upstairs in
We were all our clothes were upstairs.
even after they left and came
The place
in?
we chose.
Because Frances, when she left a lot of her stuff there.
I remember her leaving her shoes there because I played with them, the high heels.
Okay.
I had them. She had little feet.
Yes, very little.
Yes. And so, but at the time I was 5 years old, they probably fit me.
Yes. One of the letters that she wrote to Mary was to make sure that the kids stayed out of her stuff.
Oh,
Because apparently somebody had been playing with her stuff.
I suppose.
And that probably
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah, I liked her shoes.
Okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. So you and Carolyn stayed down in your parents'
Right.
room until Mary and Frances left.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I think Francis and Mary were probably gone by the time Carolyn was born.
they were.
yeah, right.
Because Frances was out of the house.
Then Agnes and I were down in the bedroom.
Right.
We decided
Folks.
to.
Agnes and I remember her sleeping with her downstairs. Yes, and Carolyn
Once we get there, we'll be there for
wasn't born yet. Right.
And then Mary and Francis left, and then eventually Ag and Carolyn and Mom shared a bed upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the boys.
The boys,
they had the other.
the oldest brother was married when Gus was.
Oh my goodness. So definitely wasn't outside.
I don't know where Gus slept then. Well, he must have slept upstairs with the boys. See, there were 2 big beds. So being he was little, I remember, that's right, he would sleep with either in either bed, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Spirit got by. Nobody complained.
Yeah, I wondered how that worked out because it looked like a small house with so many.
Yes.
With the older children leaving when the younger children were starting to get bigger.
In the boys' bedroom, you walked through it to get into the girls' bedroom. Because there's when you came up the steps.
Then up the steps, and it was our room, the girls' room, right there. And the boys' room, you had to go this way. So it was kind of separated, yeah?
Yeah, kind of. But you still kind of walked through the one room to get to
Well,
the other.
not we, the
Yeah,
boys.
Yeah.
Just from the stairway.
Can I borrow your pen? Can I borrow your pen?
Right, the stairway was right there.
Can you draw me a blueprint?
So did you have the
What she's saying?
Yes.
It was fun, but I'm not sure.
Because I'm picturing it, but see, they moved the steps after I was in that house, so it's not laid out the way that I'm thinking she's talking about.
The stairway was, kind of between
Yeah, my mom and I, we've been
girls' room and the
Oh, yeah, see, that's not how it was by the time
Oh yeah, but and she said, I'm gonna change that, but I'm really ready to
So
go.
yeah, I guess I can't. I don't know how it was.
why they changed it.
Maybe Carolyn remembers the original. I don't know.
Oh no, she wouldn't.
Yeah, probably not.
So they remodeled then at one point. Well, they had to remodel.
Well, they might have remodeled after. See, they rented after my grandparents moved away from there. Then other people.
Okay, and
I knew people that lived there then, and that's
okay,
when
so you didn't know it before they moved out.
Friends of yours.
Yeah, the guy that was killed there and stuff. Yeah, they lived there.
How did he get killed there?
He was shooting pigeons. And then one of Carolyn's daughters lived there for a while too, and just rented it. So
Joe and Bessie never sold it. They just rented it out.
no, they sold it, but their son bought it, and then he kept it, and
Which son, Henry?
Frank. Because his farm connected to the back. No, Frank had it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the later years. But first, Johnny's image bought it. A neighbor bought it. And then Matty Bronzowski, another neighbor, bought it.
But eventually,
And
Uncle
then
Frank had it.
bought it. Yes, because he already had a farm that was right connected.
The land connected. And so that's when I was in it, was when my friends were renting it and stuff. So yeah, I don't know what it looked like when they lived there.
Because I'm really interested because most of the letters, Millie, that you wrote, you always talked about picking potatoes or blueberries or lettuce.
She talks about all the time. They were always doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she was always in the garden, and you always had no news, and you're always tired, and you had to go to bed. Bye.
Didn't have anything else to talk about.
You did not. Sometimes you liked school, sometimes you didn't.
Liked what?
School.
Oh, I thought I always liked school. And the teachers bragged about me, and why? I don't know, because I didn't think I was that good, but I don't know. Being they bragged about me, I suppose I thought I was.
You are. You still are. See, I must have been.
There wasn't no pressure to go to school, though, was there?
Oh, no, I loved it. I remember one day it was real windy and cold out. And the wind was from the west, and we had to face the west wind to go to school. And my mother wanted me to stay home, and I cried. I wanted to go to school, so I did go. I had my way, and I went to school. But I walked backwards because that wind was so in my face. Yeah, and cold. Yeah.
But what year were you born?
In 1920.
Okay, so in 1934 you would have been a teenager.
Yeah.
Do you remember it being really super windy those couple years from like 33 to 34, 35?
She remembers the drought.
Yes.
It was actually at the time of the Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned in several letters how windy and dusty it was on the farm.
Yes, I remember that.
And how hard
My
it was
goodness.
to feed their animals. And she has shown me the swamp they had to go to, a special swamp that still had enough water that they could cut the swamp grass for the animals and stuff, because there was just nothing to feed them.
Yeah, yes, I remember that. That's true. Yeah. How they did it, I don't know how the folks did it. And they never complained, Oh,
And they didn't have a lot of money, did they?
no.
Because I know Frances and Mary were sending home money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when they died, I think there was like $500 or something that the 10 kids got to divide up. They each, I think each, when they you got like $50 or something.
I thought it was around $200 we each got.
Oh,
yeah.
wasn't that much? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were.
So they had a couple thousand. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Did your one time, and this is you were just a little girl, You went to the fair in St. Paul with the whole family did. It was a big occasion, and your father, you guys were in the parking lot, and some other man came and backed into your father's car, and he offered to pay for a few dollars for damage because it was a dent, and your father said no, that he would not take his money. Mary wrote about that incident and just got upset with your father because he was so kind that he would not hesitate to demand that if he did that to somebody else, demand that you take the money. But he would never accept any money from somebody that did it to him. And Mary was very upset with that. Was that typical of your father?
Well, yes, it sounds very much like he. Yes, I should say.
Yeah, he was very kind and very gentle.
Very gentle. Oh my, yes.
He loved horses.
Yes. Oh, you know so much about it. Oh,
Only because of you guys. You told me.
oh my gosh. You have such an interest in this. That is wonderful.
Absolutely.
Oh my. Yeah.
Do you remember your mother? Again, you may not. She had a very serious goiter.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Cotton hair.
Yes.
Yeah. And she had to go and have it operated on in the cities. And my dad went there to see her then, and he came home. It was around Easter time, and he brought these little that you like so well.
Peeps.
Peeps. That was the first time I had ever had those peeps. And my daughter likes them so well.
What year was that, do you remember?
Oh, let's see.
Peeps have been around a long time.
Yeah, I don't remember Carolyn. She doesn't remember that.
no.
And it must have been, I suppose, in 24, 25. Yeah. So, oh my. Lot of memories. Oh my God.
And she's recording you, do you know that?
Do you mind? I should have asked probably, huh?
She just doesn't have a clue you're doing that.
Okay.
Well, I wondered what you were holding up.
A big cigarette.
my big black cigar. Another thing before I forget. Do you remember having a Victrola?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember how you got that?
Well, it was either Mary or Francis that bought it, and I don't remember who.
It would have been Francis.
I remember where it was sitting in the living room in the corner there, and yes, we'd have to wind it up so the record would go around, you know, and you had to put it on the right spot so it wouldn't. I don't know when it.
Well, the only doll that they had, Francis had bought for them.
Francis bought
And
that.
both Mom and Carolyn and Aunt Hank, all three of them think it was their doll, so nobody knows whose doll it was.
And then
But Francis bought that.
it opened the eyes. You know, when you lay it down, it would close the eyes, and then when you bring it up, it would open. And my brother Gus, he wanted to see how this was after the doll was older, and the hair off the doll was kind of wearing off. So he saw how the head was glued together. So he took it apart to see what made the eyes move, and he found out how it was. Yeah. And then he glued it back together. We had glue that you had to cook to make it sticky. Yeah. I don't know what they called it, but I know it was some dry stuff you mix with water, and then you'd have to cook that. And then
That's an important part.
What?
Yeah. No, I know it's so.
Oh, yeah.
You would know. What was the layout of the upstairs before you moved to to Pine City?
The layout?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you went up, where did you go up the steps and then how did it go
Out
to
of
the
the
room?
kitchen. There was the stairs up there. And then there was a little landing up above the stairs where they kept the big sack of flour and big sack of sugar. And the bed was off to what would you say, to the right, I guess, as you come up the stairs. In that same room.
You're coming up the stairs and to the right, though.
Yeah, right.
Well, it was mostly to the left, though.
Well, then you
because-
tell.
If you were looking down,
No, we want your version, so don't interrupt. You've already said your version.
because that was the big room where all the boys slept.
Yeah, in the north room, then there was a little entryway to the north. And that was where the boys slept. There were two
And that
big
was
double
to the
beds.
right, when you came up the
Came
stairs.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was right there.
Yes, you were. And
Mary Lou, could you draw me an outline of it? If you maybe do both first floor and second floor.
Do you want a piece of paper instead of a
Yeah.
Let's see if I have.
No, I remember that. And I remember being up there with Roseanne, too. Upstairs there.
And remember, we didn't have any closets, but we had these clothes hangers
upstairs and one downstairs.
homemade, and there were hooks on there, and you could hang your hangers on those. And they were in the boys' room. All those were in the boys' room. So when we had to change, well, we had to run in there and get our clothes. Go back to our room to change.
It had been remodeled, so the steps are even in a different place. So that wasn't making sense. She was thinking, I'm going, well, no. And then I realized, oh,
And this way. And there was another window here.
I remember that.
And then
Kitchen.
Daryl's family have lived in Mercy, and I have too.
so you know.
Daryl's just 2 years older than I am.
And we went to the same
Do that all the time. They enter into the dining room. That was pretty good size.
I shouldn't say that.
I'll have Rodney calling me
Daryl worked in service and
every day.
we got married.
He still does.
I get to sometimes 2 times a day.
First time meeting
I hope you write your history down, will you?
in the 80s here in Pine
Write everything down when you're a kid.
I know I went to some family reunion on my grandma's side.
I'm glad I did it. Write everything on here.
No, this is the only time
You guys used to make your own candy too, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
What kind of candy was it?
Mostly fudge.
Fudge?
Yeah. And that's when you, I don't know, do they still have cocoa? They still have it. Well, it was usually cocoa we used instead of chocolate because that was a little more expensive than chocolate. It's a bitter chocolate. So we'd make it with cocoa and sugar and I don't know, a little butter, I guess, and milk, of course. But if we stirred it too much, it would turn sugary. So we had to leave it cook and then wait till it cooled off, and then we could stir it and beat it, and then it would get creamy.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And your mother made her own ketchup?
No, I don't remember her making ketchup.
Yeah, it must have been earlier. Because she sent Francis a recipe for ketchup.
Who did?
Mary did, but said it was your mother's recipe.
Oh my goodness. I don't remember that. I wonder if Carol remembers.
Oh, this was before they were both married.
So maybe by the time you were born, they could afford to buy ketchup.
Oh, maybe.
Tell us about that colored picture of the farm. The only picture is taken. Remember that colored picture?
Well, you put it together, two parts.
No, this is a picture of the home place. The colored picture of the home place.
When the salesman.
You, your kids are there, and your mom, grandpa and grandma were in the barn or out in the field when the guy came around and took pictures.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
How that came about.
Okay. Yeah. Ag was babysitting us younger ones, and then this man came and he wanted to take our picture. Yeah, Mom and Dad were, I think Dad was out in the field, and Mom and Frank were out picking blueberries. And then this man came and he wanted to take our picture. Oh, sure, we'll have our picture.
almost had a soft shell. Did you have a soft shell?
Yeah, that's right. And then about a week later, he came back with the picture. And I remember my mother's, the man wanted a quarter for the picture. Oh, Jesus. Quarter? Oh my. She thought that was too much. But she did give me the quarter. I think it was a quarter. Now that I think of it, gosh, what could you buy for a quarter? That's the way I remember it. And but she didn't keep the picture, so I'm glad she did. Yeah, because that was the only picture.
Only colored picture.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm glad it was.
What about that man from Czechoslovakia that wanted to marry Bessie?
Oh, now wasn't there something in regards to, what was that guy's name that came over?
Mr. Poboda. Okay, Poboda. The Pobodas lived in, not too far from my folks. They were good friends. They were about the same age, the mother and dad. And then, his, Mr. Poboda's brother came from Canada to visit them. And he was in the house. I mean, mother came home from work. That was when they lived in town here. Mother came here from work, and she saw this man visiting Dad, and that was that one from Canada. And that was her boyfriend
in Czechoslovakia.
in Czechoslovakia.
And he was supposed to come back for her, and he didn't come back.
Well, no, weren't Joseph and Bessie were married in Czechoslovakia.
Yes, right. And my oldest, Francis was born there.
Or was born there.
Yeah.
So, but her old boyfriend was.
That was
Went to
mother.
America and never came back for her.
Oh.
So then she ended up marrying Joseph.
So Joseph was number 2 man.
Yep. And what's funny, then we ended up related to the Pobodas anyway here.
Is that right?
Was
Because
she
my-
aware that of your grandma being there with married to Joe? Was a child?
She didn't know. Well,
Did he know
yes. Okay, he knew it.
He knew it.
He knew it. But mother, she knew it too when she saw him. But she ran up the stairs and went and changed her clothes, and she never came back down. And who was telling me this was my brother-in-law. He was a Poboda. He was the son. He would his wife was my husband's sister, and he was telling me what had happened. Yeah, so I never found out from my folks about it. I never did say anything. So I did tell you the story. Yeah.
She'd like to know what you thought of it when you went to the house.
Now, how did you know about that?
They told me.
Oh, they.
Yeah,
Oh, I suppose. Yeah.
try to get it cleared up more.
Oh, dear. Yeah. saying they didn't get along very good, Francis and Mary.
Nick said that?
No, this Bill Pubita that was my
Oh,
brother-in-law. My
Mary.
husband's sisters.
That's just like his Blue Down days.
I suppose.
Got older.
Mine still don't.
Well, in the letters,
Mine get along better.
Mary or Frances does scold Mary several times, but Frances she's like a duck. It just flows right off. She doesn't, because when they get together, they're the way they talk and share things. They like they were best friends. But Frances was extremely hurt is I believe one of the reasons that she even left the house and moved to St. Paul was because she was engaged to Alfred Coate, and I've got hundreds of love letters from him to her.
Oh my goodness.
And apparently they'd been going out for several years, and he was into the moonshine. Loved the moonshine. And then apparently one night while they were out to the dances or something, he started talking to another girl and then said to Frances that, you're only just going to end up marrying a farmer. That's all you're going to be good enough for. So that made Frances mad, and it was the liquor talking though. And so she gave back the ring, the engagement ring, and because it was done in public, she felt really humiliated, and that's one of the reasons she left town for St. Paul, because a lot of her letters to Mary are saying, are people talking about me? Are people talking about me? And her and Mary Osmond are trying to convince her, if they are, they're saying bad things about Alfred and about what he did, about being drunk and about how chasing other women and stuff like that.
See, that was before my time. I don't know any of that.
Yeah. She had been proposed to 4 different times.
Oh, man. Is that right?
Uh-huh. And 2 of the men that proposed to her were very into moonshine.
Oh.
And another one just moved from town to town, different jobs. The one she picked was Ben Peterson because he had his own farm, and the letters that he wrote, we've got the letters that he wrote to her, is that if you want to love me, if you want to marry me, fine. If you don't, let's just be friends. At least I got somebody to talk to. Oh. Because she would send letters to him saying, she's going out with this boy, and this boy. But he's hung in there. And then eventually, she kind of decided that, I'm almost 30 years old. I better marry. And this sounds like a pretty decent guy,
Well, there's one thing I remember too. His name was Lee Reed. He was from Hinckley. That was one of Frances's.
Lee Reed?
Lee Reed. Yeah. And she had a date with another fellow. And she was getting ready to go. It was on a Saturday night. And this first fella came, and she didn't want to go with him. And she told my sister, telling him I'm not home. So my sister went to the door, and she said she isn't home. I'll never forget that. Oh. That was sick of Ag.
Yeah, I can see Ag doing that at that age. What am I saying? I can see Ag doing that. I can read it. Millie, do you know, was she given her name right away, or did it take about a year for her to be named?
I don't really know, but I know there was some confusion about it. By the time I came along, they ran out of names.
And that's actually a correct story, because for the first year of your life, when they would refer to you, they always referred to you as baby. They never said a name. It was always baby for the first year. And then after that, they started saying Caroline.
I think Mary is on there. Like my name, Carolyn. I remember they were calling you Caroline in school, even Caroline, and yeah. And I know we spelled it with Line. And I wondered if it wasn't because of Mother calling you Catalinco. Catalinco. You remember when she called you?
Lyn.
I can spell it that way.
I think you changed it yourself, maybe. I don't know how that was.
And she was Cecilia Mildred.
Yes.
And then they changed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she always called herself Mildred Cecilia Shotover.
Yeah.
That's how she signed her letters.
But before that, I know that there was some confusion. I didn't know if Cecilia was my first name or,
Well, apparently, when you found out, you were going to be firm about it. When they decided that you were going to be Mildred Cecilia, you made sure everybody knew because that's always how you signed your letters was Mildred Cecilia.
I must have, yeah. But I remember going to my godmother's house, which was Mary Osmond's mother, and she said to me, "Oh, Toyota Cecilka," calling me Cecilia, and her name was Cecilia, and I cried like everything because I didn't know I was Cecilka. It didn't sound good to me, and so then it got straightened out, I guess. I was Mildred Cecilia, so that's all I remember.
Whose money is that?
Carolyn.